5 spine-chilling tales of terror, walking alone home with sinister secrets revealed. Claire shuffled down the dimly lit street after another grueling night shift at the hospital, fatigue wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. Each flickering streetlight seemed to pulse with a sinister glow, illuminating a path filled with unseen threats. As shadows danced along the well-manicured lawns and white picket fences, fear ever so slowly crept into her mind. Why did it feel as if the very neighborhood watch was holding its breath, whispering dark secrets under the guise of neighborly familiarity? Tonight, as she passed the eerily quiet park, her phone vibrated violently in her pocket, almost like a warning. Pulling it out, she stared at the message, "I see you," and Lucy. Claire's blood ran cold, her heart hammering in her chest. The text felt too intimate, too invasive, ricocheting off the walls of her anxious thoughts. A chilling urgency fluttered in her stomach, but exhaustion pulled her deeper into denial. She brushed it aside, paranoia born from long hours and sleepless nights. As she fumbled with her keys, something caught her attention. The front door stood ajar, a crack forming against the sturdy frame. Panic flickered within her. "Lucy?" she called, voice trembling, her throat closing up. Silence returned her call, an unsettling stillness that felt like a dense fog suffocating her senses. What if her mind was playing tricks? Surely, just a gust of wind could have nudged it open, right? But even as she stepped inside, dread curled around her throat. Lucy was sitting on the living room floor, shadowy eyes scanning the corners, speaking to someone unseen. "Mommy, they're watching us," her daughter whispered, the innocence of her voice now a haunting echo in Claire's ears. Claire's skin prickled, the room felt thicker, saturated with a presence she couldn't understand. She grabbed Lucy's hand, glancing around, shaking off the feeling creeping up her spine. Just then, another text buzzed demanding her attention. Trembling fingers revealed an even darker message, suggesting an insidious entity lurking just outside her safe haven. How could anyone dismiss her fears? Before she could process her whirlwind of thoughts, she dialed the police. Despite her frantic pleas, their voices were steadied and dismissive. "We'll check in if we get reports of anything." Their words felt like a shot in the gut, puncturing her hopes of immediate safety. Alone, Claire could feel her sanity fray, the corners of her home warping into a twisted reality. Restless pacing filled the rooms as Lucy played innocently, unaware of the turmoil running through her mother. The neighbor's shadows loomed like dark clouds, especially one man dressed in a city worker's uniform, loitering outside her house as she peeked through the curtain. He seemed to linger, unsettling yet strangely familiar. Was he the face she recognized from community gatherings? Or simply another figment of her growing paranoia? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Claire's heart raced as the shapes of her neighbors blurred in her mind's eye. What if the familiar smiles were masks concealing sinister intentions? Each moment pulsed with the pressure of a heavy truth, and a suffocating silence surrounded her as she clutched Lucy's hand tighter. Could it be? Were her neighbors watchers, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? The thought twisted like a knife in her gut, the air suddenly thick and heavy around her. As the darkness thickened around the edges of her sanity, Claire steeled herself. She couldn't shake the notion that danger loomed not just outside the ill-lit confines of her home, but inside her very soul. With the man's gaze seemingly seeping through the walls, confronting them felt inevitable. With the veil of ordinary life thinning at the edges, Claire could do nothing but brace for the unknown as the shadows unfolded deeper into the night, drawing closer, a ghostly threat just on the periphery of her reality. The wind howled outside, rattling the window frames, creating a symphony of unease that echoed through the home. Claire stood frozen, her mind racing, oscillating between action and paralysis. Lucy continued to play, blissfully unaware, her giggles ringing like chimes in the growing storm. But Claire couldn't shake the feeling that their sanctuary was no longer safe. "Mommy?" Lucy looked up, her innocent eyes wide with curiosity. "Can we play hide and seek?" The suggestion sent another wave of dread slithering down Claire's spine. Hide and seek. In a house where trust felt threadbare. "Not now, sweetheart," Claire whispered, glancing out the window again. The man in the uniform hadn't moved an inch. His gaze seemed to pulse against her, seeping into her bones. Suddenly, the ground trembled with a low thud, as if something heavy had fallen outside. Claire's heart dropped. "Stay here," she commanded, though her voice quivered. She crept toward the door, the wood feeling like ice beneath her fingertips. Each pulse of her heart thundered in her ears like an alarm bell, warning her of the impending encounter. She cracked the door open, peeking into the night. The street was empty. But the shadows were alive, writhing like dark tendrils reaching toward her. In the distance, she thought she saw a figure retreating into the dimness, just beyond the light, retreating into the depths of the park. A chill struck her. Was it paranoia, or something more sinister? "Mommy!" Lucy's voice shattered her concentration. Panic gripped her, and Claire spun around to find her daughter standing at the threshold of the hallway, staring directly into the darkness of the living room. "Mama, they came in." Lucy's tiny voice trembled as she clutched a worn stuffed bear, her eyes filled with a primal fear that pierced through Claire's heart. "Who, honey? Who came in?" "The tall man." He smiled at me. Everything darkened. Every instinct screamed for her to grab Lucy and flee. But where? The world outside the door felt like a pit of vipers, and the refuge of her home now felt more like a cage. "Stay close to me, Lucy," Claire whispered, each word heavy with an unspeakable gravity. They backed away toward the kitchen, every step a reminder of how fragile their safety was. As they entered, she caught sight of the back door. Safety lay beyond it, but would they be fast enough? Suddenly, another loud knock echoed through the house, sharp and demanding, a contrast to the soft thud that preceded it. Claire's breath hitched. Her mind spiraled as she tried to brace herself for the worst. "Stay here," she hissed as she instinctively moved toward the living room, every fiber of her being screaming to protect her child. With the kitchen light casting long shadows, Claire's footsteps fell heavier, each one feeling like the heartbeat of a ticking clock counting down to devastation. As she approached the door, every creak and groan sounded like a warning bell, urging her to turn back. But before she could formulate a plan, the door swung open to reveal not the tall man, but a neighbor, a familiar face and smile, but the glint in their eye reflected something dangerously unsettling. "Hey there, Claire. Having some trouble?" Her breath caught. The man's face twisted into a grin that didn't reach his eyes, exposing something malevolent lurking just beneath the surface. Instinctively, Claire took a step back. "Mommy!" Lucy cried from the kitchen. The warning cry sent adrenaline pumping. But before Claire could react, a hand wrapped around her wrist, gripping hard. "Don't be scared," came the neighbor's voice, smooth and deceptive. "I just want to help." That was it. The last thread of her unraveling sanity snapped. With a surge of desperate strength, Claire pulled free, racing back toward the kitchen, her heart hammering in a chaotic rhythm. "Run, Lucy!" As the weight of shadows pressed in, fear ignited into raw survival instinct. But could they escape the smiling menace lurking just beyond the threshold? And how many more eyes were watching them, hidden in the darkness? The question spiraled as she turned to find Lucy peering out from behind a cabinet, her expression frozen with terror. Then the lights flickered, plunging them into an unyielding darkness. What awaited them in the black void? Would the shadows finally consume them? Darkness swallowed the kitchen whole. Claire's heart raced, her breaths quick and shallow as she grappled with the all-consuming dread that enveloped them. She reached for Lucy, but the air felt heavy, pulsing with something unseen. "Lucy?" she whispered, her voice just a breath against the oppressive silence. She couldn't see her daughter, couldn't hear anything but the wild thrumming of her own heartbeat. "Mama!" Lucy's voice broke through the gloom, but it sounded distant, fading like an echo. Claire's pulse quickened. She could just make out the silhouette of her daughter against the faint outline of the counter, her small frame dwarfed by the vastness of the dark. "Stay right there," Claire commanded, her voice breaking as she strained to pierce the veil of night covering them like a suffocating blanket. She took a step forward, nearly stumbling as her foot kicked something solid on the floor. Panic surged through her. What if it was something more sinister? A trap laid by the lurking threat. A flash of lightning illuminated the room, casting grotesque shadows that danced along the walls. Claire caught sight of Lucy, eyes wide, feasting on the terror of their situation. Claire hurried toward her, arms outstretched. "I'm here. I'm right here." Claire felt the electric pulse in the air just before the lights flickered back to life, drowning them in a harsh glow. They blinded her momentarily, but when her vision cleared, the kitchen was empty, nothing out of place, but the door stood ajar, swinging slowly as if it had a mind of its own. "Mommy, he's coming!" Lucy shrieked, pointing toward the doorway, her face stark white, filled with fear. Claire's stomach dropped. "Who?" "He said he was going to play." The words escaped Lucy's lips as a terrified sob, her little body trembling. Claire felt the pull of instinct and the adrenaline coursing through her veins, urging her to act. She grabbed Lucy and pulled her close, glancing once more toward the door. Footsteps echoed down the hallway, steady and deliberate. It was the kind of sound that made every instinct in her scream to run, to hide, but there was nowhere left to go. "Stay quiet," she whispered fiercely, face inches from Lucy's, the child's breath hitching in response. Another flash of lightning split the night, and in that brief moment of illumination, she saw a shadow lingering just beyond the doorway, a figure taking shape, obscured by darkness but cruelly defined by its reach toward them. "Mama!" Lucy whimpered, squeezing Claire's hand with all her might. "Shh!" Claire pleaded. Terror clawed at her throat as the footsteps grew closer, echoing across the linoleum floor. They reached the threshold, and then silence fell like a leaden curtain, thick and suffocating. The door creaked, inch by inch, until a face broke through the darkness, the neighbor's face, twisted into that same sickening grin, eyes glinting with malice. "You didn't think you could hide from me, did you, Claire?" Claire's mind raced. Was this a nightmare? Was she asleep with Lucy, tucked safely in bed? Because this felt real. Too real. The urge to scream clawed at her. Instead, she gripped Lucy tighter, fighting against the terror flooding her senses. She forced a smile onto her face. "You're mistaken. We were just playing." He cut her off, stepping forward. "I know how much fun this can be." Panic surged in Claire. "We need to go. And I can help you." The voice was taunting, laced with the promise of danger. Every fiber in Claire's body screamed at her to flee, but Lucy was still trembling, vulnerable and wide-eyed. "Step back!" Claire shouted, her voice mixing with the storm outside, a desperate plea wrapped in shattered strength. But he moved closer, and Claire knew she had to protect her daughter at all costs, yet, as she pivoted, her gaze met the living room, the shadows shifting, seeming to sway around her like a mesmerizing dance. In that breathless second, she spotted the more figures lurking on the edges, emerging from the darkness, like a chorus of nightmares broken free at last. Who were they? And what did they want? The questions drummed a furious beat in her mind as the figures stepped into view, cold and unyielding. "Time to play," one of them softly whispered, the words curling like smoke in the cold air. Just like that, Claire's heart fell into a chasm of despair. Would they truly play, or was this a game with rules she didn't want to learn? The door slammed shut, sealing them in with the denizens of the dark. And in the silence that followed, Claire realized they weren't alone anymore. What sinister game were they trapped in? And could they find a way to break free before it was too late? Claire's breath caught in her throat as they circled around her and Lucy, their movements fluid but deliberate, as if choreographed by some malevolent force. Shadows flickered on the walls, grotesque faces shifting with twisted anticipation. Fear and despair coursed through her veins like ice. "Please," she pleaded, her voice cracking. "Just let us go." The figures paused, each one wearing a grin that mirrored their neighbor's sickly sweet but overflowing with malice. The leader stepped closer, his features unnaturally sharp, glistening under the harsh kitchen lights. "Why would we let you go?" he hissed, tilting his head to one side. "We've just started our game." Desperate, Claire glanced at Lucy, her daughter's eyes wide with terror, skin pale against the darkness. "Lucy, listen to me. We're going to get out of this. Just stay close, okay?" Lucy nodded, but her small frame shook as the figures began to whisper, hushed tones, a cacophony of sinister joy swirling around them. The air felt electric, crackling with an anticipation that made Claire's hair stand on end. "Games have rules, Claire," the leader continued. "And you have to play by them. We can't let you leave unless you earn it." "What game?" Claire spat, her heart racing, mind racing faster. Would their rules demand blood? Despair twisted in her gut. "Hide and seek," the leader replied, and the others giggled, distorted and chilling. "You have until sunrise to hide, and then well, you know what happens to those who are found." "Don't you touch her!" Claire snapped, a part of her erupting with fierce protectiveness. The leader nodded, a sickening smile spreading wider. "She's safe for now. But it would be wise to give her a head start." Lucy pressed against Claire's legs, her little body shaking fiercely as the tension thickened. "Mommy, I don't want to play," she whimpered, her voice barely breaking above the suffocating silence. "Then don't," Claire shouted, determination igniting within her. "We're not playing your game." The figures drew back for an instant, the surprising confidence in her voice catching them off guard. But it was fleeting. "Is that so?" asked the leader, his voice dropping to a low growl. "But you will. Because if you don't, then both of you will become part of the game forever." Claire's mind raced. She had to act. With one final breath, she tightened her grip on Lucy and shouted, "Run!" They lunged toward the door just as it swung wide open, revealing a swirling mass of darkness beyond. Claire felt a pull, an overwhelming weight urging her to step back, but she resisted, propelling Lucy forward. But something snagged her ankle, a cold, sticky grip pulling her down. Claire fought against it, screaming, "Go, Lucy! Don't look back!" Lucy stumbled out of the kitchen and into the hallway, and Claire saw her paused at the threshold, torn between fear and loyalty. But in that split second, Claire was dragged deeper into the dark. "No!" she yelled, but the shadows consumed her, laughter echoing in her ears as nightmarish figures danced around her, their gleeful anticipation wrapping around her like a shroud. And just like that, the kitchen quieted, the shadows retreating, as Lucy stood alone, the chilling reality of their fate settling like snow on her heart. "That I and the silence," the leader's voice echoed in her mind, "you will be found." Lucy turned, a flicker of hope surging through her. She had to find a way to save her mother. But could she hide from terror that had already claimed so many? The front door creaked open ever so slightly, an invitation woven with dread, as Lucy took her first step into the night. What lay outside? Was it safety or something more sinister? And would she be strong enough to face the horrors waiting in the dark? The cold bit at Lucy's skin as she stepped into the night, leaving the warmth of the kitchen and her mother behind. It felt wrong, too quiet, a heavy silence wrapped around her, pressing against her chest. The moon hung high, casting a pallid glow on the overgrown yard, illuminating the way to the street but masking all that lurked in the shadows. Trembling, Lucy glanced back. The kitchen door slammed shut, and she could almost hear Claire's voice fading into nothing. Dread snaked through her. An inexplicable need to find her mother pulled her forward, despite the looming dread. "Mom!" she called, her voice thin and fragile against the stillness. The word echoed back hollowly, swallowed by the night. She took another hesitant step, the gravel crunching beneath her worn sneakers. It felt like betrayal, moving away from the door that had promised safety only moments before. But standing still meant succumbing to the darkness. Lucy knew that. Ahead lay the streetlights, their harsh glow flickering like dying fireflies, giving the illusion of warmth. Yet, they cast long shadows, waiting fingers reaching for her as if eager to drag her back into the night. She shivered, remembering their laughter high and chilling. Then came a sound, a rustle in the bushes to her left. Lucy froze. Her heart thundered in her ears like a war drum, each beat shouting danger. She squinted into the depths of the dark, holding her breath, every sense on high alert. Lucy, the soft, haunting whisper slithered through the air. It wasn't her mother. The voice was wrong like a shattered echo. Suddenly, the bushes quivered, and out stepped one of the figures, just a shadow at first, then solidifying into form the gleeful leader, his eyes glowing like embers, a twisted smile skimming his lips, lurking just beyond the dim light. "Did you really think you could escape?" he taunted, his voice syrupy sweet yet laced with a menace that made the hairs on her arms rise. Lucy bolted, her tiny legs propelling her away from the sinister figure. She could hear the soft thudding of footsteps behind her, quick and deliberate, and her feet moved faster, driven by terror. She darted down the path toward the trees, their gnarled branches looming like claws ready to seize her. "Don't you want to play, Lucy?" His voice trailed behind her, sing-songy and inviting, but she knew it was a ruse, a trap baited with despair. She stumbled into the woods, her breaths coming in ragged gasps, the world around her shifting, branches scraping her skin as she ran deeper into the unknown. "Mom!" she cried again, desperation weaving into her voice. What if she never found her? What if Claire was still trapped in that kitchen, surrounded by predators? Suddenly, the ground vanished beneath her. Lucy stumbled, losing her balance, and tumbled into a small hollow. The breath was knocked from her lungs as she landed hard on the damp earth, and she realized in a panic that she had fallen into darkness. She scrambled to her feet, her heart racing. Uncertainty gripped her tightly. "What do I do?" she gasped, surveying the hollow, its walls steep and unyielding. Just then, an echoing laugh bounced through the trees, sending icy fingers crawling down her spine. Lucy pressed her back against the cold wall and squeezed her eyes shut, wishing desperately for the nightmare to end. "Lucy," the whisper surged back, sounding closer, each repetition wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. A rustle to her right drew her attention. Whatever it was coming for her. With no escape visible, Lucy realized survival might mean confronting the darkness, not fleeing it. But creeping forward would uncover more than her fear. What if she uncovered truths she wasn't ready to face? The whisper crept closer, and the shadows began to shift, coiling like smoke. Could she turn the game on its head before it turned on her? And what would she discover in the depths of that darkness? Lucy's heart raced as the shadows shifted, limbs reaching out like dark questions waiting to be answered. She took a shaky step forward, hand outstretched to feel the cold, wet ground. An icy gust of wind curled through the hollow, wrapping her in its grip. With each breath, she fought the rising panic, pushing against the suffocating dread wrapping tightly around her chest. "Is anyone there?" Her voice came out small, barely above a whisper, but the emptiness swallowed her words, leaving her in oppressive silence. The rustling to her right continued, never revealing its source. Anxiety gnawed at her insides, a festering worry that something was just inches away, watching. Lucy's instincts screamed to run, but the darkness kept her anchored, a heavy weight urging her to stay put. Lucy, the voice, delicate yet menacing, slithered through the hollow again, chilling her like ice water pouring over her. She turned towards the sound, squinting against the sudden flicker of a light that burst forth from the hollow's entrance. It flickered like a flame, teasing and taunting her, then extinguished, leaving only the echo of its brief glow. She blinked, trying to gather her thoughts. There had to be a way out. She glanced around, the walls of the hollow looming like sentries. Desperation clawed at her throat. In the dimness, she could see familiar forms, roots, twisted branches, fragments of discarded leaves, but nothing that offered an escape. "Come play with us forever," the voice drifted back, seductive and sinister. It enveloped her like a moth lured to a flame, and against her better judgment, Lucy felt drawn toward the darkness. The thought of testing her limits had always excited her, adventure beckoned, but now it felt cruel and mocking. "No!" she shouted, grounding herself. "Leave me alone." But her voice echoed painfully in the hollow, and when the laughter returned, it felt like a hammer striking her heart, filling her with dread. Bounding echoes ricocheted against the walls, raising the hair on the back of her neck as if the night itself laughed at her fear. Fueled by adrenaline, Lucy turned and sprinted toward the back wall of the hollow, feeling the textured bark of the trees scrape her fingertips. Each step deeper into the darkness felt like plunging into cold water, the creeping fear threatening to swallow her whole. Just as she neared the wall, her foot snagged on an unseen root, and she stumbled painfully to the ground. The laughter rose, jubilant and menacing. "Playtime isn't over yet, Lucy," she breathed heavily, gathering her resolve. With furious energy, she turned and pressed against the wall, searching for some sort of latch or secret to turn her despair into escape. In that moment, she felt a slight vibration beneath her palms, smooth, almost warm. It wasn't the damp earth or twisted roots she'd expected. Heart racing, Lucy dug her fingers into the strange surface, pulling back to reveal a small, dark opening. Wincing against the fear of what lay beyond, she took a deep breath and peered inside. A glimmer of silver caught her eye, its presence both alluring and terrifying. "Lucy," the whisper came again, now laced with anticipation, a conspiratorial promise laced with malevolence. Whatever awaited her on the other side felt like both salvation and doom. Dread pooled in her stomach as she weighed her options. Could she risk it? Was there an answer hidden within that beckoning darkness? As she teetered on the brink of decision, another rustle sounded closer this time. Lucy felt the pulse of her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Her instincts screamed at her to flee, but the voice lingered, a crackling ember against the abyss of her fear, igniting a desperate need to confront the unknown, to understand the sinister game in which she had become ensnared. With one last shuddering breath, Lucy squeezed her eyes shut, and plunged forward what lay beyond the darkness that awaited her. As Lucy plunged into the darkness, the world behind her vanished. The echo of laughter faded to an unsettling silence, replaced by a thick, suffocating gloom. Her head spun as a wave of disorientation crashed over her. She fell forward, arms flailing, until she struck against a hard surface of floor, cool and unyielding beneath her palms. She pushed herself up, breath hitching in her throat. The air was heavy, a slick humidity that clung to her skin. Panic clawed at her as she forced her eyes open. The darkness swirled, oppressive and smothering. She could hear her heartbeat echoing in the stillness, a stark reminder that she was still alive, though she felt anything but safe. "Where am I?" she whispered, the sound swallowed whole. She reached out, fingertips brushing against something smooth and metallic, curved. A moment later, the cold clarity of fear hit her. It was a mirror, reflecting back the shadows of her own terror-stricken face. Suddenly, a flicker of illumination cut through the darkness. It was brief, nothing more than a flicker, but it revealed a multitude of mirrors, each one warping her reflection into grotesque versions of herself. Each face grinned no longer in reassurance but with twisted malicious glee. She stumbled back, gasping as the laughter crept back into her ears, deeper and more sinister this time, as if it echoed from within the mirrors. "Playtime," their voices chanted, a haunting chorus that twisted around her thoughts, wrapping them in chains of dread. "Playtime isn't over," Lucy, her instincts screamed to run, to escape the malevolence seeping through the reflections. She turned and darted down a narrow corridor, heart thumping, shadows stretching and reaching out as if to grab her. Each step sent chilling vibrations through her legs, echoing the whispers that followed her. "Lucy, you cannot escape," the words hissed in her ears. She felt them creeping under her skin, poisoning her thoughts. Desperation surged within her. She had to find a way out. The passage bent and twisted like a maze, every turn revealing more mirrors that reflected her growing panic. and then she saw it, a glimmering silver door, just ahead, its handle adorned with dark engravings that seemed to pulse with a malevolent life. The door beckoned, promising something: release, answers, or perhaps something far worse. "Just open it," a voice purred, silky and deceptive. "It's time to play." Lucy's breath quickened as she approached the door. She felt drawn to it, and yet every fiber of her being screamed against it. The distorted reflections of herself danced tauntingly around her in the mirrors, each whispering promises of what lay beyond. With shaking hands, she reached for the handle, the metal slick and cold against her skin. The moment she touched it, a jolt of energy surged up her arm, a terrible shock that made her gasp. "What are you?" she began, but the words fell away as the door cracked open, a sliver of bright light spilling forth. A daunting silhouette framed in the doorway shimmered, shifting like smoke. It was a figure, an outline blurred and indistinct, drawing closer, slowly but surely, and then everything twisted, the world spinning as the figure stepped through the light, revealing eyes filled with a hunger that made her blood run cold. "Are you ready to join us?" it said, voice echoing with a sinister allure. Lucy stumbled back, her heart racing, instinct overriding curiosity. Nearer the door, whispers clawed at her mind, seductive and oppressive. Just as she turned to run, the mirrors shattered, crashing down around her in a cacophony of despair. She sprinted away, but the glowing doorway loomed larger, almost alive, pulling her back. "Don't leave, Lucy," the voice drifted after her, low and insistent. "Don't let the fun stop." Not yet. With each step, the ground beneath her felt less like earth and more like a living entity, shifting and squirming. Was it the world around her or her own mind betraying her? In the distance, shadows began to coalesce into familiar forms, faces she recognized from her past, twisted in smiles that turned her blood to ice. She darted around them, heart racing, but found the corridors shifting like a living thing, leading her back toward the silver door, every ounce of fear coiled within her. Would she face whatever lay on the other side, or would she succumb to the whispers calling her back? Just when she thought she couldn't take it anymore, the ground lurched beneath her, twisting toward that insidious glow, and then, with a final scream, the darkness closed in again, trapping her in its embrace. What awaited her in that shimmering realm beyond the door? Lucy's breath came in short gasps, her heart thundering against her chest as the darkness enveloped her once more. The air hummed ominously, vibrating with an unseen energy, while the familiar whispers dampened into a haunting silence, leaving only the sound of her ragged inhalations. Each echo felt like a taunt, as if the very walls were mocking her for having tried to escape. The ground shifted beneath her feet, and the flickering light from the door faded behind her, swallowed whole by the thick void. Lucy spun around, her eyes straining against the blackness, desperately searching for anything that might guide her, a path, a figure, a hint of safety. Instead, the shadows deepened, enveloping every corner in impenetrable gloom. "Help me," she breathed, the words barely leaving her lips before they dissolved into the oppressive air. The reality of her situation twisted a cold fist around her heart. Was she truly lost? She forced herself to move, each step punctuated by the sensation of being watched. The sensation prickled her skin, sending shudders rattling through her bones. Around her, the mirrors had shattered, their shards glinting ominously under the faintest hint of light. She felt the sharp edges brushing against her thoughts, urging her to remember. Lucy's mind raced. Why does everything feel so familiar? The faces that had emerged from the shadows, friends, neighbors, her very own family, and yet twisted into something grotesque and unrecognizable. She squeezed her eyes shut, battling the memories clawing at her. "Face it." A voice echoed from the depths of her mind, dark and commanding. With a forceful temper, she pressed her palms against her temples, willing the voices to stop. But each heartbeat resonated with a chilling reminder: the shadows were not just playing a game, they were feeding off her fear, her anguish. Suddenly, from the blackness ahead, a soft glow emerged. It was diffused and rippling, a light that danced and swayed like a flame, beckoning her forward. Lucy hesitated but felt an irresistible pull. Driven only by an instinctive need to escape, she followed the glow, though it filled her chest with a deep sense of dread. As she approached, the light intensified, illuminating a wall lined with mirrors, each surface cracked, reflecting her haunted visage. But tonight, these mirrors were different. In them swirled flashes of her past, images flickering like broken film reels, days spent laughing with friends, sounds of joy, the warmth of family gatherings. But threaded with the happiness were darker memories, mistakes, betrayals, things she wished she could forget. No. She gasped, stepping back, her feet catching against the jagged edges of shattered glass. As she stumbled, the light pulsed, transforming the images into distorted shapes. Shadows twisted and elongated, morphing into familiar faces that leered at her, mocking her every regret. "Join us, Lucy," the chorus rose again, a sinister echo, weaving through her thoughts like a cruel melody. Relive it all. She fell to the floor, sadness flooding her, mixing with the terror ravaging her senses. The shimmering glow threatened to consume her, she felt her heart split in two, grappling with the choices she made. In this maze of darkness, that didn't feel like a nightmare but a reckoning. But suddenly, an unexpected realization dawned in her mind. The power was hers, the darkness had no dominion over her unless she allowed it. She could break free. With a surge of fury, she shouted out, "I am not afraid of you." The mirrors trembled, the laughter died down, swallowed by the strength in her voice. Lucy stood, fists clenched, her determination anchoring her. But the air thickened again, wrapping around her like a serpent. Everything lost its clarity. Shadows crawled, and rough hands gripped her ankles, pulling her into the abyss. "Lucy! Don't you see?" A whisper hissed, echoing from the shadows, creeping closer. "You've only just begun to play." As the darkness enveloped her once more, she realized with dread that the true game was only beginning. What sinister secrets awaited her in this never-ending cycle of play? Lucy felt the cold swell of the shadows as they tightened their grip around her. The whispers returned, a cacophony filling her head like a crowded room of distant voices, all clamoring for attention. She squeezed her eyes shut, battling against the suffocating dread. "Open your eyes," a voice commanded, smooth and chilling, sinking deep into her bones. She resisted, but it was as if the darkness was physically forcing her eyelids to part. When she finally did, the glow had changed. No longer soft and inviting, it now pulsed erratically, revealing glimpses of what lay ahead in jagged flashes. Each flicker showed twisted reflections of herself, morphing into monstrous versions, their eyes vacant yet filled with fury. Then, her surroundings shifted, the mirrors crumbling away to reveal a narrow path lined with flickering torches. She was no longer in a room but standing on the threshold of a deserted street. The air was thick with an unfamiliar tension, the smell of decay and something else, something sinister. Shadows loomed and darted, always just beyond her line of sight. Lucy stepped forward, feeling an instinctive pull toward the darkness. It was as if something in her urged her to continue walking, to penetrate deeper into whatever horror awaited her on this forsaken path. "Lucy," the whisper lingered in the air, tugging at her memories. She clenched her fists, fighting against the urge to look back. The warmth of familiarity twisted into a bitter sting, reminding her of what she tried so desperately to leave behind. Then came the sound, a soft, sobbing that seeped into the silence, echoing off the cobblestones. It was a child's cry, broken and mournful. Lucy's heart lurched as she followed the sound, the motherly instinct awakening in her, blinding her to the looming danger. As she rounded a corner, she found a small girl sitting on the ground, clutching a stuffed bear, tears streaming down her tiny cheeks. "Help me," the girl whimpered, her eyes glassy and wide with fear. "Where are your parents?" Lucy started, moving closer, instinctively drawn to comfort. But as she approached, the child's features warped, fissures cracking down her cheeks, revealing the darkness lurking beneath. In a blink, the warm, inviting cry turned sharp, a macabre echo of the earlier laughter. "Lucy, join us." The girl's voice darkened, twisting into a cacophony that made Lucy's skin crawl. Lucy staggered back, breath hitching in her throat. "You're not real. You can't be," she shouted, her voice trembling. The child's laughter echoed around her, wrapping around the shadows, then she heard it again. The game, you can't escape it. The ground beneath, now shifting like quicksand, seemed intent on pulling her down into a bottomless pit. Desperately, Lucy fought against the overwhelming urge to succumb to that laughter. She spun around, racing back down the street, but the darkness closed in, blocking any glimpse of an exit. She could feel the air thickening around her. The hands from before, cold and clammy, reached for her once again. "Face your fears, Lucy," the sinister chorus had returned, louder now, resonating off the walls of her mind. "This time there's no escape." But she couldn't let it end like this. Summoning her fading strength, she screamed back, "You don't own me. I will not play anymore." As her words surged into the empty air, the laughter froze, silence cascading over the scene. But Lucy could sense the discontent, like the moment before a storm, a charge in the atmosphere that promised chaos. Just then, a pain shot through her body, as if the shadows took form, gripping her in a vice. She struggled against them, feeling her energy drain away as she braced for the force to pull her back, and then abruptly, everything fell still. And the haunting silence, a different whisper lured her, softer yet more menacing. "You think this is the end? You've only scratched the surface. Those who play never truly escape." Dread washed over Lucy as she realized this darkness was alive, feeding on her determination. It was just a matter of time. What awaited her now felt even worse than the last time she had stood at this threshold. She prepared herself for what dangers lay ahead, knowing deep down that the game had only just begun. What horrific twists awaited her in the next round of the darkness? Lucy stood at the brink of despair, her heart heavy with the weight of her choices. The darkness buzzed around her, a living entity, chanting the mantra of her inevitable succumbing. But in this suffocating silence, a flicker of hope ignited amidst the shadows, whispering sweet nothings of surrender. She wouldn't let this twisted game consume her. She had to fight back. "Enough. I will end this," she proclaimed, voice steady, cutting through the oppressive atmosphere like a bolt of lightning. The laughter echoed in disbelief, reverberating off the walls like a furious storm. For the first time, she grasped that she embodied strength. She was not just a pawn in their game. The shadows retreated for a moment, shrieking and swirling like smoke caught in the wind. Lucy clenched her fists, feeding off the surge of newfound courage, and pushed forward. She tore through the labyrinthine passages of darkness, adrenaline propelling her as she confronted each creeping shadow with unwavering determination. In a deep breath, she banished her fears, shouting out her truth. "You don't control me. I choose to fight." The words rang bold and clear, shattering the illusions of confinement. The shadows recoiled, twisting back like a receding tide, and for the first time, Lucy glimpsed a path leading away from the darkness. She sprinted down the corridor, dodging tendrils that sought to ensnare her, her heart racing with the pulse of someone alive and unbroken. Echoes of her allies haunted her mind. Claire, her mother, fighting against the very shadows that sought to snatch her away. Lucy pressed on, summoning the bravery forged in her terror. Suddenly, she emerged into a clearing lit by an unearthly glow. The air shimmered, tinged with hope, and at its center stood Claire, a vision of strength even amidst the chaos. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Lucy felt the tether of their bond anchor her. "Mom!" And in one powerful sweep, they embraced, the darkness retracting like a coward from the presence of their love. "Lucy, I knew you would find me." Claire's voice broke, filled with relief and determination. The warmth radiating from her was a beacon in the suffocating dark. They stood together, shoulders touching, prepared to face the nightmarish host. Together, Lucy stated, heart thrumming with courage. They could end this together. As they turned to face the shadows now filling the clearing, Lucy found clarity. "This is our game, and we decide how it ends," she declared, bold and bright as the sunlight breaking through clouds. The figures hesitated, darting backward as if hit by a wave of uncertainty. "You can't defy us," the leader yowled, but their words trembled, losing strength before the resolve of two souls intent on freedom. "Watch us." Claire responded fiercely, a shield of love enveloping her daughter. The shadows lunged but were met with unwavering light, the essence of their shared strength forming a barrier against the darkness. Each step, infused with the power of their bond, sent ripples through the sinister fabric of the night. Together, we will find our way out. Together, we will shatter your lies. Lucy shouted, and Claire surged forward with her. In unison, their voices emerged, rising above in a harmonious strength. The shadows writhed and screamed, pulling back, cracking like fragile glass under the weight of their defiance. No. This can't be. The leader roared, but his potency crumbled as their resolve solidified. With one final act of bravery, they charged toward the heart of the gloom, drawing every ounce of their shared energy. The darkness recoiled, tendrils shriveling away. Lucy felt the warmth of daylight breaking through the night. With a resounding pulse, their combined force shattered the boundary between light and dark. Explosions of luminescence surged forward, flooding the clearing, filling the space with brilliance blinding to the shadows, and just like that, with a brilliant flash, the darkness evaporated, the sinister laughter silenced. A deep stillness replaced the chaos as the shadows, defeated and impotent, scattered into the ether like autumn leaves in a strong wind. Finally, at the threshold of freedom, Claire and Lucy stood side by side, enveloped in the warm embrace of dawn's light. "We did it!" Lucy exclaimed, tears of joy cascading down her cheeks. Claire nodded, her heart swelling with pride. Together, always. They walked hand in hand toward the sunrise, leaving the remnants of their fears behind. It was more than just escape, it was a promise, a vow forged in darkness now lit by love. It was over, but the journey was just beginning. And guys, if you want to see more heart-pounding stories, remember to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on what's next. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood that comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. And for the love of all that's good, instantly share this with at least 5 friends who need this thrill in their lives. Don't wait even one more second to spread the word, because only true fans understand the power of support. Let's keep this journey alive together.